Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the world of a historical epic that explores the life of one of the most complex and consequential figures of the 20th century. That's right, we're recapping Oppenheimer. This movie takes us through the fascinating yet haunting journey of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the man known as the father of the atomic bomb. Before we dive into the story, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy deep dives into movie recaps like this one. Now, let's get started. The movie begins with a chilling and prophetic vision. Robert Oppenheimer, played by Cillian Murphy, envisions the immense and destructive power of an atomic explosion. This moment of insight haunts him throughout the film, symbolizing the terrible consequences of the scientific advancements he will later spearhead. The story then flashes forward to 1954, where we find Oppenheimer in a stark formal setting, a security hearing that will determine whether he is guilty of divulging classified information about the atomic bomb. This hearing is not just about a single event, but rather about the entire trajectory of Oppenheimer's life and the decisions he made that led to this point. Oppenheimer himself suggests that his life should be viewed as a whole, as he sits before the committee that will judge him. From here, the film takes us back to the early days of his life and career, weaving through the pivotal moments that shaped both him and the course of history. We travel back to 1924, where young Robert Oppenheimer is just beginning his studies in physics at Cambridge University. Even as a student, it's clear that Oppenheimer is brilliant but troubled. During a lab session, he becomes frustrated and spills some reagents, prompting his teacher to reprimand him and instruct him to start over. However, Oppenheimer's mind is elsewhere. He's eager to attend a lecture by the legendary physicist Niels Bohr. Ignoring his teacher's orders, Oppenheimer finishes his work quickly and sneaks off to Bohr's lecture. But before he leaves, in a moment of impulsive anger, he poisons an apple on the table with potassium cyanide. The next day, he realizes the gravity of what he's done and rushes back to the classroom, hoping to retrieve the apple before anyone can eat it. He arrives just in time to see Niels Bohr, the very physicist he idolizes, reaching for the apple. Fortunately, Oppenheimer intervenes and prevents the potential disaster. Bohr, impressed by the young man's quick thinking and scientific knowledge, advises Oppenheimer to consider transferring to a university that can better nurture his intellectual talents. Taking Bohr's advice to heart, Oppenheimer enrolls at the University of Göttingen in Germany, one of the leading cantors for quantum physics research. Here, he dives deeply into the study of quantum mechanics, preparing to write his dissertation and make his mark on the scientific world. But the movie quickly shifts forward again, this time to 1959. We find ourselves at a Senate hearing where Lewis Strauss, the former head of the United States Atomic Energy Commission, is being considered for a position as Secretary of Commerce. Strauss is questioned about his relationship with Oppenheimer, revealing that he holds a deep-seated grudge against the scientist, dating back to their first meeting in 1947. Strauss had offered Oppenheimer a prestigious position at Princeton University, but their relationship quickly soured. Strauss perceived Oppenheimer's attitude toward him as condescending, particularly during a memorable moment when Oppenheimer ignored Strauss to have a private conversation with Albert Einstein by a lake. This snub, combined with Oppenheimer's connections to left-wing political circles, fueled Strauss's animosity. Back in Göttingen, Oppenheimer continues to make strides in his scientific work. He attends a lecture by Werner Heisenberg, another giant in the field of physics. Heisenberg praises Oppenheimer's work and offers to collaborate on future research. However, Oppenheimer declines, stating his intention to return to the United States to continue his work there. Upon returning to the US, Oppenheimer begins teaching at the University of California, Berkeley. Initially, his classes have only a few students, but word of his brilliance quickly spreads, and soon his lectures are packed. However, as his influence grows, so does the scrutiny he faces. At the 1954 hearing, Strauss reveals that the FBI had been collecting a dossier on Oppenheimer ever since his return to the United States. Oppenheimer's political views, particularly his association with left-wing circles, had made him a person of interest to the authorities. It's during this time that Oppenheimer attends a meeting of the Communist Party USA. Here, he meets several key figures, including Håkon Chevalier and Jean Tatlock. Oppenheimer begins a romantic relationship with Jean, but it's a tumultuous affair. Jean struggles with mental health issues, leading to constant mood swings, which strain their relationship. As Oppenheimer navigates his personal life, the scientific world is rocked by a groundbreaking discovery. The Germans have successfully split the uranium atom. Oppenheimer immediately understands the implications. The neutrons released in this process could trigger a chain reaction, leading to the creation of a bomb with unprecedented destructive power. Soon after this discovery, Hitler invades Poland, marking the beginning of World War II. The world is thrown into chaos, and the United States, though initially neutral, begins to prepare for the possibility of joining the conflict. During another meeting of the Communist Party, Oppenheimer meets Catherine Kitty Feuning. Despite being married, Oppenheimer embarks on a relationship with Kitty, who eventually leaves her husband to marry him. However, even after their marriage, Oppenheimer continues his affair with Jean Tatlock. As the war intensifies, Oppenheimer's life takes a dramatic turn. He is approached by General Leslie Groves, who invites him to lead the Manhattan Project, a top-secret initiative to develop an atomic bomb before the Nazis do. Groves is concerned that the Nazis might already be ahead in the race to build such a devastating weapon, and he believes that Oppenheimer is the right person to lead the effort to ensure the US succeeds first. Oppenheimer agrees to take on the monumental task. He argues that the best way to beat Hitler is to leverage the expertise of scientists who have fled Europe, including Jewish physicists like Heisenberg, who might otherwise be forced to work for the Nazis. Despite Groves' initial reservations, Oppenheimer convinces him that this is their best chance of winning the nuclear race. To facilitate the Manhattan Project, a secret city is built in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Here, scientists from all over the world, along with their families, live and work in isolation, dedicated to one goal: building the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer and Groves travel across the country, recruiting the best minds in physics, chemistry, and engineering. However, not everyone is enthusiastic about using their scientific knowledge to create a weapon of mass destruction. Some scientists express moral objections, fearing the consequences of their work. Oppenheimer, however, argues that it's better for them to build a bomb than to let the Nazis do it. At one of their early meetings, the team encounters a serious problem with the calculations needed to ensure the bomb's success. Concerned, Oppenheimer seeks the counsel of Albert Einstein. There's a terrifying possibility that the bomb could trigger an uncontrollable chain reaction, potentially igniting the Earth's atmosphere and destroying the planet. Einstein advises Oppenheimer to double-check the calculations, but ultimately leaves the decision to him. Oppenheimer's team reassures him that the chances of such a catastrophe are near zero, but the fear lingers in the back of his mind. As the project progresses, tensions rise. Håkon Chevalier suggests to Oppenheimer that they should share their findings with the Soviet Union, an idea that Oppenheimer flatly rejects. This incident years later is brought up during the hearing, adding to the suspicions against him. The narrative jumps back to 1959, where the Senate continues its hearings on Lewis Strauss's nomination as Secretary of Commerce. Strauss becomes increasingly worried about what will be revealed, particularly the belief among many scientists that Strauss was responsible for Oppenheimer's downfall. In 1943, Oppenheimer and his team are confronted with the idea of developing a hydrogen bomb, a weapon even more powerful than the atomic bomb. However, the concept is shelved, as it would still require the use of an atomic bomb as a trigger. After the war, in 1949, the Soviet Union successfully tests its first nuclear bomb, sparking fears of a new arms race. At a meeting of the Atomic Energy Commission, Oppenheimer argues for negotiations with the Soviets to control the spread of nuclear weapons. In contrast, Strauss advocates for the development of a hydrogen bomb to maintain a strategic advantage. Back in 1943, General Groves reprimands Oppenheimer for a perceived breach of security when he travels with another scientist to a different branch of the Manhattan Project. Despite repeated violations, Groves defends Oppenheimer during the 1954 hearing, insisting that he never passed information to the Soviets. Oppenheimer's personal life becomes increasingly troubled. His affair with Jean Tatlock continues even after his marriage to Kitty. Jean, struggling with depression, eventually takes her own life, an event that devastates Oppenheimer. He retreats into the woods, where Kitty finds him and urges him to pull himself together. As the project nears completion, the scientists begin to argue over the future of their work. Some are still focused on developing the hydrogen bomb, while others, like Oppenheimer, are more concerned with the ethical implications of what they are creating. By 1945, the atomic bomb is nearly ready for testing. The scientists and military personnel gather in the New Mexico desert for the Trinity test, the first detonation of a nuclear bomb. The night before the test, Oppenheimer visits the bomb itself, contemplating the enormity of what they're about to unleash. On July 16th, the bomb is detonated, and the world is forever changed. The blinding flash of light and the mushroom cloud that follows signal the birth of the nuclear age. In that moment, Oppenheimer recalls the words from Hindu scripture, "Now I'm become death, the destroyer of worlds." The test is deemed a success, and soon after, 2 more bombs are built and sent to the military, destined for Japan. However, as news of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki spreads, Oppenheimer is consumed by guilt. He imagines the destruction and loss of life that his creation has caused, and he begins to question the morality of what they have done. In the aftermath of the war, Oppenheimer becomes a global celebrity, hailed as a hero for his role in ending the conflict. He appears on the cover of Time magazine and is even invited to the White House to meet with President Truman. However, the meeting does not go as Oppenheimer expects. When he expresses his guilt over the bombings, Truman dismisses his concerns and calls him a crybaby, further isolating Oppenheimer from the halls of power. As the years go by, Oppenheimer dedicates himself to containing the spread of nuclear weapons, advocating for international control and regulation. This puts him in direct conflict with Lewis Strauss, who uses his influence to undermine Oppenheimer at every turn. The film returns to the 1954 hearing, where Oppenheimer is asked when his views on nuclear weapons began to change. He replies that it was when he realized that the US government would use any weapon it had regardless of the consequences. Despite being recognized as loyal to the United States, Oppenheimer is stripped of his security clearance, effectively ending his influence on nuclear policy. The narrative shifts once more to 1959, where David Hill, a former technician, testifies against Strauss during the Senate hearings. Hill argues that Strauss acted out of personal vendetta, not out of concern for national security. The testimony contributes to the Senate's decision to reject Strauss's nomination, marking a significant victory for Oppenheimer's supporters. The movie concludes with a flashback to 1947, where Oppenheimer meets Einstein by the lake. Einstein, a figure of immense respect and wisdom, tells Oppenheimer that one day, after they've punished him enough, they will invite him to the White House and give him an award. But Einstein warns it won't be for him, it will be for them to make themselves feel better. As Einstein walks away, Oppenheimer reflects on the day he feared that his calculations might lead to the destruction of the entire world. That fear and the weight of his actions continue to haunt him. Oppenheimer is a powerful and sobering exploration of the life of a man whose contributions to science forever changed the course of history. It's a film that asks difficult questions about the morality of scientific discovery, the responsibilities of those who wield such power, and the personal toll that such decisions can take. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth movie recaps and analyses. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Oppenheimer, and if there are any other films you'd like me to cover. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.